Hey everybody, I picked up a new chainsaw. Well, new to me anyways. This is a Stihl MS250, and I picked this up at the local pawn shop. Look at the tag on it here. They had priced this at $279, which is probably close to the retail new price of this saw, which is common with the way they price things over there. They price everything at about full retail and then expect you to make offers off of that. I originally made an offer on this saw about a month and a half ago. That was probably closer to the height of wood cutting season here in the fall, and I think I had offered $140, and I think the lowest he had come down to was $160, and that was pretty much the best it was going to be at that time. I went back a couple weeks ago, which is about a month and a half later. The saw was still there, and we agreed that I would pay $150 for the saw, which I think is a good price based on what I've seen for prices realized on eBay for this particular model of saw. Quite a few of these have sold. Now, obviously, a lot have sold for less than this, and some have even sold for a little more. But condition is a big deal. And the condition, from what I could see on this saw, other than it needed the chain to be sharpened, which I just sharpened, it's in excellent condition. It doesn't look all beat up. It doesn't look like it's fallen off of a truck or been run over or anything like that. It's obviously been used, but it's in good shape. All right. So anyways, so what I was saying was I picked up this saw, and this saw here, I guess I should have had this out of the way during this whole speech, but so there's the MS250 I just picked up. Here's the saw that I want to replace with this saw, and this is my Husqvarna Model 50. This saw is pretty old. I bought this saw used at an estate sale or on-site auction quite a few years ago, probably 20 years ago, and it was used when I bought it. I don't even remember what I paid for this saw, but this saw has been bulletproof. This saw has never failed me. I've never had to tear down the carburetor on this saw that I can recall. Store fuel in it, I don't even remember if I've been over the years if I even put fuel stabilizer in it. This saw, it never seemed to suffer any of the problems that the E10 fuel additive has caused in a lot of power equipment. It's just been a great saw. The only thing I don't like about this saw is if I'm just trimming branches off of a tree that I've dropped, I like a lighter saw. So that's why I have my other Stihl saw that you guys may or may not have seen in the past, which is I think an MS170. 160 or an MS170, something like that. So I would love to have a saw that was beefier than that saw, but maybe a little bit lighter. So this saw and this saw actually almost identical weight, so I didn't really go any lighter. I'll actually have to get the tail of the tape on this thing, look up the specs, because I'm curious what the horsepower or power of each of these motors is versus the weight. That power to weight ratio is a big deal, especially if you're cutting wood for a while and your arms are feeling like they're going to fall out of their sockets. So what I don't like about this saw, other than the weight, is that because it's an older saw, it's got the older style fill knobs, which is no big deal. The only other thing about this saw is that to start this saw, it has this switch on the top here, which is a safety lockout, so you can't pull the trigger unless this is down. But then it's got this little feature here where if you pull this down and pull the trigger and pull this back, it's supposed to actually keep the throttle locked open for starting purposes, to make starting easy. And then the choke is you slide this up, and that's full choke, and then pretty much, so you slide this up, you pull it until it sputters a little bit and then shut it down and have this throttle lock on. But the throttle lock hasn't worked correctly in quite a while. So what I tend to do is I put my foot in here and use my toe to kind of hold the throttle open. But that works. So the Stihl, this model being a newer model, I think they've made this model for a while now, but this is a newer incarnation of this saw. So it's got the new style, like on my trimmers, it's got the new style fill covers here. So it's a really quick, easy twist, turn, lock to open these up, which is great. The bad part about these is that I do know that you can break them. If you break them, then you've got to replace this whole piece. For the most part, they're pretty durable. This has got this one switch basically handles it all. You've got the safety lockout. You pull the trigger, and you can bring this switch down. I would be the normal run position. Next click down would be partial choke, and all the way down would be full choke. And at full choke, starting position, it's also locking the throttle open. So it does kind of all that in one shot instead of having two separate switches, which is nice. On this side, it's got the typical nuts that actually clamp down on the bar to tighten the bar. And on some models, they've got a new-fangled, quick tensioning mechanism that's got like a lever that you can actually just twist, and it's a lot easier and quicker to tighten the chain. The drawback to that system is that that's more parts to break, and I got that right from the service center for Stihl power equipment that's local to us. The guy said you're going to notice that on a lot of the homeowner models, it's going to have that thing because it's more convenient for the homeowner, but that the problem is once that breaks, then the chain's not going to want to tighten, so you're going to have to stop until you get a repair. This is much more durable, and that most pros don't really mind having that. This is the cover that somebody modified, and what they did was they took a couple zip ties and they just took a hunk of tubing and they zip tied it on here and clamped it down, and it makes a nice little sheath for the scrunch. So that keeps that handy, because I was always putting this down somewhere where I would misplace it. So I like that idea. I'm probably going to steal that idea from my other saws. Pardon the pun. Steal for the Stihl. Okay, so I like that it has this. The other thing that's cool is they made an improvement here, I think. Used to be that the screw to move the bar in and out before to adjust the tension before you tighten these, the screw was here, and it was always kind of in an odd place to get at. And what they've done here is now they've got this cam mechanism inside there, or something going on, that they've got a screw here that actually moves that pin. And I like that a lot better. I already tightened the chain here, so I've got both chains sharpened and tightened. So we're going to do a little bit of a Husky versus Stihl competition here. It's not going to be very scientific at all because this saw is a lot older than this saw. I mean, there's so many variables here. It's really just for the fun of it. I want to see how much better this saw, or worse, this saw cuts than this saw. What I'm really trying to decide is I'm trying to decide whether or not it's finally safe for me to sell my old Husky 50, even though it's been such a good saw to me. I just don't need that many saws. Although if I can't get decent money for this, I'll probably keep it as a spare. Alright, so I got a decent sized log there that I'm going to cut. And these are both going to be cold starts. I haven't used either one of these saws in a couple of weeks. I've only used the other saw, the new saw, once since I got it, and the chain was pretty dull when I got it, so I didn't really use it very long before I decided, well, I better sharpen the chain. So, let's see. The Husky, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little harder to start just because it's older and it doesn't have that snazzy all-in-one choke accelerator deal. Shut the choke off by accident. That wasn't fair. ran over my sawbuck with the tractor a couple times. Well, I don't know. So the 50 seems to have more power. Yeah, let's try that again. I got the tension a little too high on this chain tension. Okay, I've readjusted that chain tension. Looks like the Husky's just a better cutter. Well, the other thing too is I think I'm getting different chips. So these look like much bigger flakes than what I'm getting with this. So I think maybe I've got some differences in the grind on the two chains that I did. I grind these on my bench mounted chainsaw sharpener from Harbor Freight, which actually, even though it's like a $35 or $40 item new and it's almost constantly on sale, and with the coupon I think I get it for like 28 bucks, and the Oregon Tools, or whatever the name of that company is, their version of that thing is a lot more money, and it still looks like the same kind of plastic housing and everything. It doesn't look very different. So I mean, I think that, and the reviews are pretty good on that thing. You're not sharpening chainsaw chains for a living, then investing in a $300 or $400 chainsaw sharpener bench mounted is probably not that not going to be high on your priority list. So anyway, that point is that I don't think it's a problem with the sharpener. It's probably operator error on my part when I'm sharpening those chains. But the fact of the matter is that the MS250 is bogging a little bit more than the 50 Husky. So I'd be willing to bet that when I look up the specs, the tail of the tape is going to be that the Husky's actually got more displacement in that cylinder. It's got a little bit more. I think they rate saws by kilowatts instead of horsepower, if I recall correctly. So I don't know. Don't know if I really determined much with this silly experiment. turn the saw there so I could avoid that metal piece. My main purpose of that last little couple of cuts was I cut on one side and then with the other saw on the other side, so I got two separate piles of shavings. All right, so I'm no expert, but I'd say I need to do more work on the chain for the Stihl, because this is not the kind of nice shavings that I'm getting on the other side, which I'll show you in a second. This has got, the flakes are a lot smaller. These are both 30 pitch chains. You can see the flakes over here are a lot, there's a lot higher amount of large flakes and less of the intermediate stuff. Less sawdust, more saw chips than the pile on the Stihl. Also, it looks like the pile on the Stihl, for cutting the same distance, looks like it made a larger pile. So for those of you who want to see what the grind looks like on my chain, that's what it is on the Stihl. And yeah, that doesn't look right at all. I think I goofed. It doesn't look like I ground that pot properly at all. Well, so that wasn't a really fair test of the old Stihl, was it? And there's the grind on the Husky. Actually, that tooth doesn't look like it's that great either. I wonder if I ground one side better than the other. See, when I flip the chain around in the grinder, I have to reset. And I think maybe I reset half of these wrong. Because now this is the Husky from the other direction. These look a lot better. These look like they have a proper grind on them in one direction. That's some debris on that one. Oh, well, I've just got too many other things to do today, so unfortunately I don't have time to regrind that chain on the Stihl and redo this test, so I'm gonna just call this a wrap. So I apologize to anybody who really wanted to see these two saws go toe to toe, but quite frankly, if you really wanted to see an honest comparison, you really need to probably watch well, probably the best thing would be to just look on forums and see. And you might even find that not many people are comparing these two saws, because again, the Model 50 there is an older saw. You know, so. All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching, and if you like what you see, please don't forget to subscribe. I always forget to say that. If you didn't like what you see, forget you were here and don't tell anybody.